Hello, my fellow movie fans, and welcome to the new adventures of A Feast of Films Theatre with your hosts, Jesse Prosser and Ethan R. Hill.
In Technicolor.
How do we want to start this episode, Ethan?
I don't know. Do you want to party or not?
It is party time. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Feast of Films Summer Extravaganza.
Also known as I don't have another name for it. I was thinking maybe I could come up with something quickly, and no, that's not where I'm at.
Summer Movie Extravaganza. That's just what it is from
our Summer Slam.
2022.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Are we gonna get sued?
I mean, Vince McMahon ain't in the WWE anymore. We're probably safe.
Is he out already, or is he on his way out?
He's out from he's hard out.
But I thought he was on his way out.
No, he's out, and now his daughter is in charge of the company now, and I believe he's going to AEW now. Not that I know much about AEW, it's just what I've heard.
I thought he was retiring, like being donezo.
He's retiring because he is being retired due to
being old.
Yeah, let's go with that. So, today we're gonna talk about, I don't know, I consider it to be one of my favorite zombie flicks for sure, and I know you feel the same. Return of the Living Dead.
So it's an interesting. My relationship with Return of the Living Dead is really interesting because when I first saw it, I thought it was the dumbest movie ever.
I mean,
no, I didn't get it. That's the thing is, I did not get Return of the Living Dead the first time I saw it because I thought I loved Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah,
I loved the remake. I loved the serious tones of Day of the Dead.
So wait, did you think it was part of the same series?
When I first saw it, yes.
Oh, okay.
Because when you first see it, it's just a zombie movie,
right? And
it shares Living Dead.
Yeah.
So it was I'm this okay? Is this this is parody? What is this?
Yeah. And the reasoning behind the name is also an interesting story to say the least.
But the more I watched it, because it's one of those films you watch and you're like, well, this is dumb. Okay, I gotta watch it again.
Yeah.
Oh, well, this is dumb. Okay, I gotta watch it again. This is really dumb. I gotta watch it again. And eventually it just kind of grew on me, and it just slowly became one of my favorites. And the more I learned about the behind the scenes, how it came about, what it actually is.
Yeah.
No, I love it. It's a valuable piece of zombie lore. As
100%.
Silly and as campy as the movie is, without it, we wouldn't have half of the zombie things that we do.
100%. I mean, the whole eating brains thing comes from this movie.
Before it was just they ate flesh.
Yeah,
they didn't just target brains. But
yeah, just straight up eat people. But when you ask people
zombies saying
what
brains,
brains, that comes from this movie directly.
So, more brains.
Send
more cops.
Send more paramedics.
We could just do 2 hours of us just quoting the movie.
We could do the whole friggin' movie easily. It's really quotable. It's got some amazing zombie effects. You can argue.
And then some also not great ones.
Some not great ones, but they're again, there's also a reason behind that as well for the behind the scenes, because I want to say they had a different effects guy doing some of the early ones. That's the skeleton with the eyeballs coming out of the grave. That was the original effects guy, but then stuff like the Tar Man was the guy they got afterwards, if I recall correctly.
I believe so.
But some you get this weird range where some of them look again, some of the best zombies in film, and then there's some stuff that that's pretty cheesy, but it's part of the charm of it.
It all works.
100%. And it's a summer movie because it takes place on July 3rd, and then obviously throughout the night it becomes July 4th. It is a Independence Day movie after all.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yes. So what about you? What did you feel when you first watched it?
Well, because I believe that is I want to say that's a movie that you showed me. Because
Did I?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Did you not see it before you met me?
No, I had never seen, like, I had seen...
I feel so blessed that I could share that movie with you.
I've seen clips of the Tar Man before.
Oh, yeah, because he's in, like, every horror documentary.
100%.
Like, countdowns, anything like that.
Yeah, like, and of course, like, the poster, like, whenever you go into, like, the store to rent VHSs, it's one of the ones that stands out, and I'm just like, oh, that must be a really scary movie. You know, me at, like, 11 years old, picking up The Howling.
It's got a couple of jump scares in it, but nothing that's really, like... Nothing that sticks with you.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh man, I'm never going to recover from this emotionally.
Mm-hmm. No, because, like, it, honestly, some of the, like, the scary stuff is, like, it's not even really the zombies. It's, like, some of the scenes where people are, like, turning into zombies. Like, we'll get into it a bit as we
talk like
about the story.
The slow burn turn.
Yeah, because, like, it's probably some of the most painful zombie transformation stuff I've seen in a movie, just as far as the way the characters act when it's happening.
100%.
But no, like, you obviously, like, you get the beginning of the movie where you get our two main characters.
Still haven't answered my question. What did you think about it when you first watched it?
Oh,
You're just
I
like
loved it.
You're like, oh, Ethan, you showed it to me. That's my answer, and it's
that's
like,
my answer. No,
that's how I felt about it.
It's a movie I really enjoyed. Like, right off the bat, like, I was laughing my ass off the first time through, and the more, again, like you said, the more I went through, like, behind the scenes and, like, found out more about how it got made, the weird connections to, like, George Romero and all the stuff Dan O'Bannon did. Like, it's a very fascinating movie from a behind the scenes
Well, I think
perspective.
me and you agree that this is one of those ones that the more we watch, the more we find.
Yeah, the more little things here or there that are just, like, fun.
What's the sign in the back of the office that me and you saw for the first time?
Oh, yeah, like, on the last rewatch, on the, like, on the Blu-ray and all that, where we just finally noticed the sign in the back, but I can't remember what it said. But it was something ridiculous.
There's a poster that looks like an eye test, but it actually reads, Bert is a slave driver and a cheap son of a bitch who's going bald too.
Right.
And, like, that was something we didn't notice until we watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, oh. Because, like, it's, like, the amount of stuff that, again, you can keep pulling from and keep seeing.
Yeah.
And the new things you can get for it. And we've been watching this for, well, it's at least been 10 years, like, for you. And I've shown, like, and I probably watched it 5 years before that.
Yeah.
So, like, I've been watching it for, like, half my life. Because, like...
Yeah. Well, and, like, I enjoy the beginning of the movie because it's that classic setup of, like, someone's first day at a new job.
Getting trained by their manager who's trying to mess with them as much as they can.
Yeah, like, because I think we've all had that to a certain degree. And, like, you get a very clear layout of the environment we're going to be in for, like 60% of the movie, like, right off the back. It's like, oh, this is, like, where we keep the corpses, and, like, these are the various body parts, and these are the crates we use to send stuff away on, like...
Have you ever seen the film Night of the Living Dead?
Well, and that's the, because I can't remember the producer's name, like, the guy who produced this one, but he produced, with George Romero, Night of the Living Dead, and they had a falling out, but they both kept different rights to the film, and I believe, like, George Romero kept the rights to, like, the property itself, but then the producer had the title for, like, The Living Dead, and that's why this is, like, Return of the Living Dead, and George Romero couldn't call it, like, Dawn of the Living Dead or, like, Day of the Living Dead. He had to go with just Of the Dead.
John Russo
was
the other writer. Like, him and George Romero wrote Night of the Living Dead together. They came up with it, and then they went separate ways. John Russo wrote a book, Return of the Living Dead, which I will really want to read because it's completely different.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to read it, but it's, like, impossible to find.
Okay. I'm shocked that wouldn't have gotten, like, a re-release at some point, but...
And basically, yeah, so, like, when they separated... I think you might have gone over this while I was researching this.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, all it was the rights of The Living Dead stayed with John Russo.
Yep.
Of the Dead was George Romero. And that's just kind of where it went. And
Yeah.
I don't think he was a producer on this one, but he sold the rights to do it.
Okay. Because obviously, like, it's written and directed by Dan O'Bannon, famously of Aliens and
yeah,
Alien.
he did other things.
He did do other things. There's a Lovecraft adaptation that he directed as well. I believe, like, The Resurrected, if I recall correctly. I think he did that one.
He wrote Life Force.
He did write Life Force.
Which Tobe Hooper was supposed to direct this, and he backed out. Tobe Hooper backed out to do Life Force.
That's kind of interesting, actually.
So Dan O'Bannon got to direct this one.
Yeah, because I know originally he wanted to direct Alien, and the studio was like, no, you're not, sorry, no.
We've seen Dark Star.
Walter...
I didn't even direct Dark Star.
Yeah, Walter Hill was just like, that ain't happening. No. It's like, well, because they kept trying to, like, keep him off the set. Because they just, like, well, they thought he was kind of weird, so. But yeah. But yeah, no, so he got to direct this, and honestly, like, I think it's a well-directed film. It's not like the directing's, like, in your face or anything, but, like, it's a well-put-together film, and the performances are consistent.
Performances are really good, the comedy is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, overall, it's just really good.
100%.
But yeah, so specifically, though, the difference also between those two universes, Night of the Living Dead happened in Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. Like, that
Yeah,
event,
that is the branch that goes this way.
Whereas with Return of the Living Dead, Night of the Living Dead is a movie that takes place inside Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, based on true events, apparently.
Yes. A small town and all that jazz.
Yeah, which I always thought would be a fun idea if they ever decide to, like, reboot Return of the Living Dead, and, like, they did basically, like, the original event that inspired Night of the Living Dead. I always thought that would be kind of a cool idea. Get me on the horn at some point.
But still, like, that, I love that aspect of it, where it's just, like, they're using all these facts from this movie.
And they're all wrong.
Yeah, and they're like, he goes down and, like, he tries to mess with him and be like, oh yeah, like, this is one of the bodies that we found.
You want to see it?
What's the compound called again?
Compound... It's like C52 or something along those lines.
We say we love this movie, but then we just don't.
There's little details just escape us, but, like, yeah, it's something weird like that. Yeah, like, it just, like, because you could tell that,
it's a gas called trioxin.
Trioxin.
How do you forget trioxin?
Right.
I totally knew that and didn't
100%.
have the Wikipedia page in front of me.
We'll cut this out. But no, like, it just, you could tell, like, our main, like, the manager dude's bored, and it's just like, you want to see him? What? The bodies. Like, and they go down the basement, and sure enough, there's this, like, giant military, like, sealed up tank, and, like, you look inside, and, like, you can see the dried out body of, like, what would become the Tar Man. And you're just like, oh man, that's really freaky. He's just like,
oh, but doesn't it leak? Can't it leak at all?
No, man, this is military grade. This thing will last forever. And just the gas floods the room. And they just cough up a storm and just fall on the ground. It's like, oh, god damn it. And then you get the... Because that's when the title sequence happens with the theme and everything, right?
Yeah, and the theme is amazing. Like, the music to this is, like... The soundtrack to this is really weird. Because it's, like, a really heavily, like, punk rock soundtrack.
Yeah.
But then, like, the music is also... Like, the score is also really good.
Yeah. Like, it's got that...
synthy 80s vibe.
100%. But there's a groove to it. Like...
Also, the drum beat and the,
100%. Like it keeps the film going and keeps the pace up, and it's just really it's got fun. The whole movie is just fun, from the score to the characters. Because then we're introduced to Freddy's friends, who decide while they're waiting for their friend to get off work, they're going to have a pre-party in a graveyard nearby where the mortuary is.
It's literally across the parking lot.
Yep. And then they're just hanging out, and you get to meet these punks, and they're all very unique. Like, you got Oh crap! How am I forgetting Linnea Quigley's character?
Of whose?
Was it Trash?
Which one?
The one who strips.
That's Trash. Yeah.
Trash. Oh, guys, get the lights over here. Trash is taking her clothes off. And then there's a lot of memorable lines there. Like, you got the kind of leader of the group, just like, when everyone's doing their thing, he's kind of like off on his own. He's just, and then Trash comes up to him and like tries to seduce him. It's like, what do you think? Like,
show some respect for the dead.
Yep. And then he's talking about like being a punk, just like, what do you think? This is a fucking costume. This is a way of life. Like, just great lines like that. And no, like you get their personalities immediately.
And it's a very diverse cast. Like, and it's again, there are some that are like, you can tell that like they're a bunch of teenagers is the thing. Like, there's some punks, there's some preps, but they're all teenagers who just want to go out and have a good time. They want to go and party.
Yeah. The one guy I recognized from Friday the 13th Part 5, because it's the one guy who has like the little brother.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, he gets killed in the outhouse because of those damn enchiladas. But yeah, no, so like we get introduced to the characters really early on, and then we cut back to our two dudes waking up.
Are we just gonna go through the whole movie for them?
I don't know.
You're just telling them the whole movie.
Well, no, it's just like we can get to the different parts, you know, because like there's the like after they wake up and everything's kind of going crazy.
I guess if you haven't seen the movie, spoilers, guys.
Well, I'm assuming if they're watching a podcast about a specific movie, we're gonna talk about the plot. Obviously,
I don't know, man. You're going step by step and.
Go pause this. Go and watch Return of the Living Dead. Come back here and watch. But because you just should. It's a good movie.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great movie, and you should watch it. And that's it. That's the podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
But no, we that's what we start getting like the crazy like practical effects. Like the like the half dog that just looks horrifically gross. Because it's like, what, because it falls off the shelf, and it's just on the ground, and they flip it over, and it's like, you can see it's like innards and shit. And then they start beating it to death. And it's like, and it's horrifying, because the dog's just making noise, and it's like, it's really effective in just grossing you out, even though you know, like, because you see that half dog earlier when they're going through the warehouse.
Yeah, like, it's part of the warehouse tour.
Yeah.
And, like that's the thing I think with a lot of the effects in general is, like, they're not necessarily gross out effects. They're kind of, like, disturb you effects, but it's a lot of slapstick effects as well.
Yeah.
Like with the headless body when it comes out of the freezer and they're trying to, like, figure out, like, because they cut off the head and it...
Yeah, because the body comes out, it, like, tackles Freddy, and then they get out a hacksaw, because one of them's holding him down, and they bring in Bert, who's their, like, the main manager of the mortuary, because they're like, hey, we've got some problems here.
And that's when before they let him out, like, they call Bert in, and they discuss about the movies. They talk about the movie. It's like, well, what happened in that movie? It's, you have to take off their head, you gotta hit them in the brain, all right, and they try it, and then it doesn't work.
Yeah, because they hit him with a pickaxe. And he's still, like, screaming. It's like, you're supposed to hit him in the brain. I hit the f***ing brain.
You mean the movie Lies?
So then, they tried cutting his head off, and he's still screaming horribly. And then, that's when you discover that, like, unlike in Return of the Living Dead, and, like, or, like, Night of the Living Dead and other zombie movies where, like, if they lose a limb, it's like, it's just dead. In this, like, all the limbs kind of have a life of their own and they keep going. So you get, like, fun stuff like bits of bodies trying to crawl around.
Well, it's like when they took the bags into... So across the street, you meet Ernie, which I love because it's Bert and Ernie.
Yup.
And Ernie is, like, one of my favorite characters because they, like...
There's so much, like, weird details with him that aren't outright said.
It's really, really suggested that he is an escaped Nazi. Like when you first meet him, he's listening to like German marching music.
Yup.
He has a very specific like type of gun that was like
it's a Walther, if I recall correctly. It's a Walther or a Luger. I can't remember.
I think it's a
which.
Luger.
Yeah, which is like traditionally like an SS officer pistol.
And like just some of the lines he says, and just like the way he has bleach blonde hair, like it's really really subtle. But the more you look at it, the more you can't unsee it.
Yeah, 100%. Like you can really tell like that there's a lot of detail put into that character that it just like upon first watch you might not notice, but every time you go back, it's like, there's something more going on with this guy.
Once you get that idea in your head, like it kind of sticks.
Yeah, and then of course, what do they say to him when they bring those bags in? What do they want him to do?
Oh, they want him to burn it.
Yes, but they say they have a bunch of weasels in these garbage bags.
Yeah, rabid weasels.
Yeah, there's rabid weasels. We need you to burn them. He's like, what? That's really cruel. Why do you want me to burn these weasels? Just look, we just need you to burn them up, all right? Like, and it's just this. It's like, but what else do you say if you're trying to cover it up? It's like, oh my god.
Oh, and again, like it works, and like all the chemistry.
Yeah, and like because he's a mortician, and like that's where you get where you're introduced to like the whole concept of rigor mortis, which comes into play later on as Frank and Freddy start turning into zombies. So that's kind of fun. Like they set up stuff very effectively in this, and it pays off really well.
No, 100%, and like it's I kind of think that's what I love about it. Mm-hmm. Is like everything is set up and paid off. Like it's a tight script.
Yeah.
In the rain, the freaking rain.
Yeah, because like one of the bags rips. That's when he discovers that it's fucking these are like zombie bodies. So he's like, yep, we'll burn them, no problem at all. And then that's the next thing you find out. It's like, oh, if you can't burn them, because that just goes up in the atmosphere, and when it rains down, it goes into the graveyard where the punks are, and that's when we get the army of zombies. And then everybody starts getting eaten.
So specifically to hop back onto the music and hop back onto the Do You Want to Party?
Yes.
Because
it is party time.
So that's a song like everyone who watched that movie, they love that song. And like, so I do. And I was like...
You want to know where I first heard that song, funny enough?
Where?
It was in Call of Duty Black Ops. Because the map where they have Danny Trejo, Robert Englund, and Sarah Michelle Gellar as playable characters... The whole thing in that is like they're shooting a movie for George Romero called Call of the Dead, and George Romero's in it. And it's a weird thing where like they start killing zombies in the cinematic, and they start playing like the "Do You Want to Party?"
I'm guessing that's the zombie mix.
Yeah, like it's so awesome. It's not the song it's not like the bonus song because it's an Avenged Sevenfold song that plays, but like how cool would it have been? For like thinking back on how cool it would have been if that song was playing, but the Avenged Sevenfold song is great. But that was my first exposure to this song in a weird way, like even though it's connected to George Romero, like it's got that weird tie-in for me. And then finding out it was from this movie, I was like, oh, now it makes sense. But that was my first exposure to the song.
For me, because again, the first exposure to the song was the movie.
Yeah.
And like recently, this is like what, a year and a bit ago, I was like, oh man, I like the soundtrack for Return of the Living Dead. I'm gonna get a playlist. I'm gonna look up the playlist to this, and I'm gonna put it on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's two mixes of this song. One is the zombie mix, which is the one that most people know about, which it's literally pretty much "Do You Want to Party" on repeat.
Yep.
The other one is the full song by the original punk band. And it's got a lot more meaning in it than I knew.
Yeah. Like
and it's a really heavy, it becomes a really heavy song.
Mm-hmm.
Because essentially it's about a murder case of a 5-year-old girl whose like family beat her and like burned her and like tortured her basically.
Yeah.
And it's about that family and yeah, like it's heavy, like because basically it was I think they got acquitted or something like that, like they got released.
Yeah.
And so this was the punk band's way of calling them out.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it became a really somber tone of a song afterwards.
Yeah, because I remember you were saying, like, after you listened to it, it's just like, have you ever listened to the full song?
It
Like,
really changes the whole context.
I'm just like, well, obviously, yeah. You want to part? It's like, no, dude. There's this the original version of the song. I'm like, well, what's the difference? They're like, oh boy, and then you play it for me, and I'm just like, well, that was a lot darker than I thought it was gonna be. So yeah, if you ever want to be depressed, just look up that original track. It's a doozy to say the least.
Yes, it's written as a tribute to the little girl, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, I don't know.
It's a real woof when you listen to it, but like still a really like it's still a solid song, and the meaning behind it is really good, but like it's very dark.
It just kind of it hasn't ruined it in the movie for me. It just makes it really. I don't like listening to that in my free time now.
Yeah. It's fine within the
well, because the zombie version is really hard to find.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the zombie mix is they took away all that extra stuff.
Yeah, it's a bit more upbeat,
but it's
to say the least.
It's a good thing to be aware of. But overall, like
yeah. Well, like, because there's a lot of different because like don't the Ramones feature on this as well?
No.
What was the other band that's on here? Or am I thinking of the Misfits?
No.
Well,
Misfits.
This just comes down to I don't know a lot about punk compared to Ethan.
It's not that about knowing about punk. It's just the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like essentially, it was like the Cramps. I think was the biggest. The Cramps and the Damned are the two biggest bands on there. But it's again, it's still a good soundtrack.
Like, of course. Like the songs fit the songs fit the story, and when they're used, it's like pitch perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like this really is a movie where things just kind of keep getting worse because every time they try something to like get a one up on the zombies, it just doesn't work, and they just start to panic more and more. And it gets more and more ridiculous as time goes on.
Well, and what I always liked about this one too is the zombies are intelligent to a point.
Yeah.
Like they're driven by pain.
Yeah, it's really like, messed up.
But there's an interesting scene where like they get half a zombie and they strap her down.
Mm-hmm.
And so they ask like, "What do you want? What's going on?" And basically, you find out from this like zombie, because they can talk, is that eating brains is the only thing that relieves the pain of being dead.
It makes the pain go away.
And so that's where like that's I love that concept, and it's such a deeper, cooler concept than like most zombie things. It kind of explains the context rather than like it gives them motivation.
Yeah, because like again, like because you never really get the context in any other zombie movie as to why they are doing what they're doing. Like, again, 20 Days Later isn't a zombie movie, but like it explains like they're just filled with rage, and that's why they're like just like they just kill everything in their sight.
But in the original one too, and I think that's why they also never really explained it in Day of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead, is because in the original one, they're just ghouls. Like they're
ghouls.
Yeah, that's what they're called.
Yeah,
the term zombie wasn't coined for a while.
Yeah,
it was around before, but like so the difference between zombies as we know them versus what they were is a lot of times, zombies were tied to voodoo kind of stuff that Hollywood probably were less than sensitive about.
You don't say.
Yeah, because there was White Zombie, there was Plague of the Zombies.
I Walked with a Zombie.
Yeah, there was a bunch of zombie movies that happened before Night of the Living Dead and Return of the Living Dead. So when they first showed up, like in Night of the Living Dead, they're just called ghouls.
Yeah.
And
because originally
it's never confirmed why they are brought back, whether it's the end of the world, whether it's the was a satellite that fell,
Yeah.
or
Or
some kind of plague,
or if there was no more room in hell.
Yeah, like it's like they never answer that question, and I like that angle too.
Yeah.
We don't know why it's happening, but these things, and that's why ghouls are technically a better name for them, because
Yeah,
original zombies didn't eat flesh, but ghouls would.
Yeah.
So basically, that's what it was, and then eventually, I think it was Return of the Living Dead that started calling them zombies. I don't even know if they use the word zombie in the movie.
I don't know.
At a certain point, somewhere in the cultural zeitgeist, they think they flipped. They switched over.
You know what it might have been? It might have been Dawn of the Dead being called zombie in Italy.
Maybe.
That possibly could be it, because then you had like Zombie 2 and all those movies. I could be wrong about that, because that's like a bit later on. That's like, what, 76, I believe? Because that was Dawn of the Dead.
Well, and a lot of it, what it comes down to is, like, at the core, zombies, and this is, I think it's where it kind of merged together, because zombies were reanimated corpses.
Yes.
Like, they always have been reanimated corpses, or or people were thought to have been dead, but then brought back through hypnotism.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a bunch of little things here and there. And then eventually, because, I think because the ghouls were, like, shambling corpses that you didn't really know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you didn't know what they were, and, like, ghouls weren't exactly
It wasn't a, like,
popular concept. So you could see the parallels there that people would draw and just be like, oh, clearly this is what a zombie is. And so they switch it away from more of just being, like, undead servants to being man-eating creatures. Like, so the term zombie and the concept of zombies has evolved over the years, because, like, essentially what separates them from vampires? Well, they eat flesh rather than drink blood.
Well, and, like, it's also, again, the interesting thing about the modern zombie is it's probably one of the more modern kind of, like, monsters that has been invented within the last 100 years. Because there's folklore for, like, vampires and werewolves and, like I don't know if, like, mummies necessarily, like, the whole, like mummies coming back to life thing is, like, super ancient or not. Obviously, mummies have been a thing for, like, hundreds of years. But, like, zombies are fairly modern by comparison, and that goes back to George Romero.
Well, no, because zombies, but that's the thing, is, like, zombies as a concept, not just being man-eaters, not just being...
Yeah, that's what, like, the modern zombie.
Yeah, well, like, modern zombies, if we're talking about man-eating zombies, like, yeah, then that kind of concept was, as you said, around the George Romero age.
Yeah.
But going back further, like, zombies have been around since the 1800s as part of mythology and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's one of those things of... And, like, technically, if you look at, like, early interpretations of vampires, they're completely different than modern vampires.
Well, and if you look at different cultures' interpretation of zombies too, like the Striga is a lot more, like, monstrous, but it essentially operates like a vampire.
Oh, sorry, you said it was zombies. You said other cultures' interpretations of zombies, and I was like, okay, this is interesting, and it's like, you mentioned the Strega, and I'm like...
Yeah, sorry, I meant to say a different culture's interpretation of vampires.
Vampires, yeah, I'm like, isn't that a vampire?
Yeah, the Strega is very much, like, meant to be, like, that kind of cultural and mythology version of a vampire.
Yeah, 100%.
So, like, there's definitely historical parallels you can draw.
Well, even the same with, like lycanthropes and stuff like that. Like, that goes back to Roman times, like...
Yeah. And the whole, like, I want to say the whole, like, people coming back to life and, like, who are buried in their coffins and coming back, like, that also kind of started in North America as well. Like, I watched a couple of videos on that where, like, people thought that, like, people who had recently died were, like, coming out of their graves and, like, feeding on people at night because, like, they'd have nightmares about that person.
I don't think that's a North American thing.
Like, apparently a lot of, like, if you look into it, a lot of, like, early pilgrims and stuff like that, like, would end up exhuming graves because they thought that, like, the recently dead were, like, coming back and feeding on them.
I thought I heard that happened overseas in Europe as well.
Oh, probably, yeah, but, like, they'd open up the coffins and, like, it would look like, people's, like, skin was receding and, like, they were still bleeding, their fingers had receded and looked like claws, like, little things that we, like, associate with vampirism, but, like, it's literally just because of the way they were really, like, preserved, right? So you just put them in the ground, and you will put it up, and, like, they look like a more monstrous version of the person they were.
No, 100%.
So, like, there's definitely historical parallels you could make for the modern zombie as well.
Well, and, like, I was just thinking about this. What would you consider to be, like, modern mythology? Like, that's maybe a conversation for a different time, but, like...
I mean, I know the smart-ass answer would be superheroes, like... Cause,
No, I mean, like mythological monster creatures, like...
Honestly, like...
Like, I know anytime we come up with, like, a new concept, like, in movies and stuff, but, like, when you think about mythology that people actually believe is real, like, I don't think there's ever been, like, a modern myth that, like, has been spread around.
Well, like...
there's no new Bigfoot. There's no new...
No, there is.
If you say Mothman, I'm gonna slap you.
No, the Slender Man.
Did people think Slender Man was real?
Obviously, yes.
Oh, right, yeah. Like, no, I'm just a jerk, yeah.
100%. Like, it's...
Sorry.
It's messed up as hell, but, like, that is a thing that was invented by the internet, spread around, and then enough... You spread something... Again, like, it's that one Craig Ferguson sketch where he's like, tweet it, retweet it, true.
But, like, it's also, like, I know that there was that was an isolated incident. Like, it happened, like, once.
Because there's a lot of people who, like, and, like, there's that new thing, like, I think I've talked to you a bit about before, but, like, there's this new thing on the internet called the back rooms, where people... Like, a lot of people... I think most people know it's not real, and it's just, like, a kind of creepypasta thing. But it's all this concept that, like, if you... No clip out of reality is what people call it. Like, basically, like, if you were to trip, or, like, you go to some place where, like, there's, like, a certain type of energy, like, these kind of things, and you, like, press up against a wall wrong, you'll fall into this place called the back rooms, and it's, like, this parallel dimension. And, like, there's a lot of, like, found footage stuff to it, like, that people have invented. Like, there's actually a really good video series on YouTube that's, like, legitimately super creepy. But there's a whole, like, mythology that's been invented around this, like, weird concept. And again, it started off as a post on an internet forum of this, like, off-yellow office room that's, like, lit with, friggin' fluorescent lights and looks super creepy. And from that, it's become this whole thing. So, like...
Well, I think you answered the question right there. I think new wave mythology is creepypastas.
Yeah, 100%. Like...
Because even, like, what was it? Is it Jeff the Serial Killer?
Jeff the Killer.
Yeah, like...
Literally, it's like, it starts off as, like, somebody, like, photoshops a creepy image, and then they give it a little bit of a backstory, and then a bunch of people run with it, and they start making their own kind of, like, they make the backstory, they... come up with different cases behind it, and eventually you give enough detail to something, when somebody reads it and they don't necessarily know where it came from, and then they suddenly find all these different, like, cases based around it and all these different incidents, suddenly it becomes more real to them.
See, this is where, like, X-Files couldn't necessarily exist nowadays, because, like, basically think about this, is, if ever there was a real thing like this that popped up, say there suddenly was a real Slender Man, no one would believe it, because it's like, well, the internet made this up, clearly. We found it on the internet. No one trusts the internet.
Yeah. Well, doesn't, I've never read American Gods, but isn't it, like, kind of the concept behind a lot of, like, the modern gods, like, media and technology and all that? Isn't the concept that, like, enough people kind of, like, believed in it and worshipped that stuff that just, like, these entities kind of just appeared and now exist?
Well, yeah, that's because that's become the new thing that people quote-unquote worship.
Yeah.
As opposed to, again, the old gods or anything like that.
Yeah, like it's an interesting idea. I don't necessarily believe in it, but like it is the idea that like new myths can kind of exist along with the old ones, and like stuff that like you're like, oh yeah, there's no way that could be real. But to some people, if they don't necessarily know the context behind something, it can become real to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the whole thing behind nursery rhymes. When you tell kids, like, you know, like make sure you wear your shoes outside, or else giant worms will come out and eat you or something. I don't know if that's a real one.
That's a nursery rhyme?
It could be.
I think you're getting nursery rhymes mixed up with like
Tremors.
things that your parents would tell you to like
I
behave.
think no, they never told me that one. I think I just got mixed up with Tremors. But it's like you tell kids things, you know,
Like what?
like the Tooth Fairy. Like that's a prime example where it's like, so like if your kids lose a tooth and all that, you make sure as a parent you know about it so you can get it dealt with.
That's like the equivalency of Santa Claus more than anything.
Right.
I wouldn't say that's like monsters or anything.
No,
it can be. Like the Tooth Fairy could be a monster.
Like, don't make sure you don't get out of bed in the middle of the night because there's a monster. There could be a monster in there that's going to grab your feet.
Could you like no? That's bad parenting.
That's a terrible thing to tell your kids.
Better stay in bed or the monsters might get you. Dad, is there monsters under my bed? Yes, so many. So you better lie very still. That's why I can't be a parent.
Nope. Dad, are there werewolves in the forest? Absolutely. So don't
go in the forest.
Don't leave the yard. But you know, like, it's little things like that. Like, so I think, yeah, ultimately we did answer the question. Like, you 100% new mythology can be made. It just kind of takes a different form now.
It's mostly formed on the internet.
Yeah.
And since I don't spend a lot of time on the internet,
you don't necessarily
doing like looking into that stuff. Like I have zero context, right?
Right.
But, like creepypastas was something I never really got into. Like my friends all did, but I never really.
I always like because it's an interesting, like a lot of them are not very well written because it's like it's just someone like inventing a really weird story, but the good ones are really good. Like there are some people that are like really talented and they can just spin a yarn, and because it's just a post on the internet, like there's this weird like. It almost feels like it could be real, but if you really look into it, it's like, yeah, no, you're clearly you wouldn't have written it that way. There's a lot more detail here than there feasibly would be if this was a real account, things like that.
No, 100%.
So yeah, it'd be like, because it's like, yeah, Bigfoot, the modern zombie, and now creepypasta in that order.
In that order, huh?
In that order.
Return of the Living Dead. So back to that.
Return of the Living. Thank you for coming to our TED Talk. But no, so we get we haven't gone into depth about the Tar Man yet. But just like it's got this really, again, they're like it's the thing you see whenever you like see posters for like Return of the Living Dead and like video clips, things like that. Most of them
that or you see punk zombies.
Punk zombies, yeah.
Well, because like that's I think going back to the intelligent zombies.
Mm-hmm.
With these zombies as well, they lay traps.
Yes.
Like they specifically they attack the police and then call for more police to come so they can eat more people.
Send more cops.
And they send more cops. No questions asked.
Yep. Oh my god. And then of course they call an ambulance because Freddy and Frank are like falling apart at the seams, and they get there. They like check their vitals and everything, and like they can barely move their arms because they're getting the rigor mortis. And then he checks his heartbeat, and they're all, for all intents and purposes, dead. But yeah, they go back out and they just get fucking just mobbed by all these zombies.
One, I kind of like that angle too of like again the slow burn death. Mm-hmm. I think really, really, really works.
Yeah, one just like they're just they're just screaming the whole time.
Well, because they're in pain.
It's absolutely horrifying. And yeah, like that's another thing too. It's set up already. Like, they eat braids to clear the pain, and what happens to Freddy and Frank? They're like screaming in pain. So it's like you get that set up perfectly.
One is, and that's another weird thing too. Though, is like if your brains are 8, you don't come back as a zombie.
Yeah.
But if you're bit, you become a zombie, or if you die, you become a zombie.
Yeah.
Like it's such a weird
version of the mythology. Like it
because
literally
Scuzz never comes back.
Yeah, like it really feels like. Again, it feels like it would be like a weapon that the government invented, and they're like, "Hey, this is actually kind of messed up and like a little too scary. We probably shouldn't use this." So like,
and then with that though, even the Tar Man, I think he kind of sets up traps, but not really. Like he's stuck in a basement.
Yeah,
but he hides and then reveals himself. Like
because what is it? Freddy's girlfriend comes downstairs and like the Tar Man's just like waiting under the stairs or something like that.
Yes,
and then like it's moving super slow because like it's basically like at this point it's like liquefied flesh and muscle, so it's like shambling all over the place.
Oh, and his body movement is just amazing.
Yeah, like whoever they got to play the Tar Man is just like pitch perfect as far as like because it's like unnerving how like it's kind of just like slinking along, but it's still threatening, and you still get that intelligence because it like she like gets herself in a locker and like holds it closed so it can't get her. So what does it do? It grabs a chain from over here, hooks it on, starts like pulling on it, like, and then,
like they're smart.
Yeah, and of course, yeah, like
I think that genuinely started to influence Romero's zombies as well.
Yeah,
because like he played with the idea in. Did Day of the Dead come out around the same time as Return?
I think so, because I think Return of the Living Dead was, or sorry, Day of the Dead was 83, 80 or 83, if my brain is remembering correctly.
Well, because yeah,
Day of the Dead.
85. They came out the same year.
Ah, there you go.
So that's interesting. That's parallel thinking, because that's around the time that Romero started introducing the concept of zombies over time, getting back to their routine and being smart, being intelligent.
Well, like I stand by it. Like there is 100% there is a continuity and through line throughout at least those first 4 Romero movies. As far as like the evolution of the zombies.
Oh yeah, Land of the Dead. I'm like,
yeah, because like in Land of the Dead, they go further with the Bud idea, because you have the one lead zombie, Big Daddy, and you've got the other ones that are like slowly remembering, like they start using guns and tools and stuff, like because the Big Daddy zombie like worked at a gas station, and you could see him at the gas station like trying to like put gas in this one car and stuff like that. So there is a through line of the intelligence kind of returning to them and them forming their own like groups and communicating, like, which I always thought was interesting. Like a lot of people crap on Land of the Dead. I don't think it's that bad. Like I actually like it quite a bit.
I think there's highs and lows to it.
Right.
But it's interesting that those concepts really kind of started to appear around the same time. And then kind of just completely go away.
Yeah.
Because, like, look at any other zombie series, and it's not really them doing the same thing. It's not them gaining intelligence. Like, they're all fairly, like, animalistic.
Yeah. Well, and, like,
even with,
the Dawn of the Dead remake.
And even with Walking Dead, with, even the subsequent Return of the Living Deads, which we still need to watch. I think we've only seen the first 3.
I think
maybe the first 2.
I think we've only seen the first 2, like, because
because we haven't seen Necropolis or Rave to the Grave.
We have not seen Rave to the Grave, which is just the best title, really.
It's exactly what you think it is.
100%. You rave to the grave.
Let's put some rave music over top.
That's the Blade nightclub music.
we get a copyright taken down if we put music over top of us dancing?
I'm assuming so, yes.
Ah,
Not if we keep talking, though.
what if we just find some generic dance music?
I'll just make some. Just
We want to release this podcast in a timely manner.
yes. How dare you? But yeah, I know. So it's like it's just really well thought out, and like they use their budget effectively for the zombie stuff. And of course, like Freddy turns, and then like he legitimately is like probably the most threatening.
Well, and it's interesting how they have different reactions, because like Freddy's reaction is like, well, I gotta eat food.
Yeah, like he becomes like he gives into it, and Frank just like
he's like, well, this is it.
Yep. He prays to God for forgiveness. Doesn't he like take off his wedding ring too? I can't remember.
I think so, yeah.
And then he throws himself into the incinerator. And it's like, oh my god. It just didn't want to turn.
Yep. He's like, nope, I'm not becoming like that, and he sets himself on fire, and because that's the one way he knows how to kill himself.
Yeah. It's just really like it's simultaneously really funny and also really sad.
I'm trying to remember how everyone else ends up.
Well,
I know Tina and Ernie end up in the attic.
Well, yeah, Tina and Ernie end up in the attic, and then
Bert
is like ends up on the radio because he's the one who calls the military and is like, yeah, oh yeah, I think a couple of them end up like at the radio room. Because, like, he calls the military and is like, hey, your container's here and everything's messed up. Can you send help?
Oh, yeah, that's also the weird thing in this movie. There's this, like, random, like, side plot where you just meet this general.
Well, I think that's
like,
literally there so the military stuff at the end doesn't come out of nowhere.
And you meet him, he's having dinner with his wife, and I think you, like, have another scene with him.
Like, it literally feels like his one assignment is waiting for this, like, container to show up, and he's getting very frustrated at hanging out at home all the time.
And then how do they solve the problem, Mr. Prosser?
Oh, they just nuke an entire town. Not too dissimilar to Alien vs. Predator Requiem.
Or to Independence Day.
Or Independence Day.
Yeah.
Except it does not work in Independence Day, and arguably it doesn't work in this either.
Well, I mean, like, I don't think anyone... No, like, we don't nuke anyone. The aliens nuked us.
Right. No, they tried to nuke the aliens in Independence Day.
No, right, they did.
Yeah, but it does jack shit, and then Jeff Goldblum gets drunk and is very upset at recycling, and then...
but like it's one of like the most downer endings, but it's still kind of hilarious. But it's really dour because like all these characters who you think might survive.
Mm-hmm. And like it's dour in a different way than Night of the Living Dead is dour with its ending.
Yeah,
because that's another like, oh, everyone's dead. But in this one, like everybody is dead, and it did nothing.
And then no, it did do something
mm-hmm.
because over the credits, and like I think it's a really effective way to kind of like give kind of a lasting bit of horror. Is they basically, because the nuke happened, a similar thing happened when they burnt the bodies, where all that gas gets released up into the air,
mm-hmm.
and the rain starts falling, and they start doing news reports about like, yeah, the rain is burning people. Like it's it's
well, there's a
really weird. And
well, it's like a conversation between like the general and like somebody where they're just like, how much damage control do we have to do? Well, seems like the rain is going to take care of most of the fires, and like you get that same kind of shot over.
But
the
people
graveyard.
are saying, it's burning, and
yeah. And then it ends on that skeleton coming out again.
Do you want to party? And then the sequel happened, and none of that mattered because it's just...
Yeah, like they don't address it ever. Like it feels like the next one should be like almost apocalyptic in nature.
Yeah, like you'd think the second one would take place right afterwards, and like no, it's just like a retelling of the same...
With two of the same cast members as different characters.
Like, actually, that's the thing, and we need to rewatch it, but like Is Return of the Living Dead a movie in Return of the Living Dead 2?
I don't know. Like, I feel like that's a thing. Because clearly the first movie doesn't really happen. Because it's because it doesn't start with, like, a container falling off a truck and landing in a river.
Yeah, and that's where the two find it. And, like, they have that exchange of, like, From the first movie, there's the "you better watch yourself, you like this job."
Yeah, because they're grave robbers in the second one. Like,
They're not grave robbers. They're a specific type of job that I can't remember what it is, but they're not. Don't call them grave robbers.
oh right, of course, naturally. But yeah, they have like then they have them like have this weird moment of like deja vu.
I feel like we've done this before.
You better watch your tone if you like this job.
Like this job.
Like this job. It's just wonderful line.
Oh, it's just such a good movie. It's like, would you say this is your favorite zombie film?
That's tough because like there's some stiff competition out there for like. I feel like when it comes to zombie movies, there's a shocking amount of like really good ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar thing with like with vampires and zombies. It's kind of the same thing where it's like both of them can be really cheap to do, or they can be really expensive. And I think there's an equal measure as far as like there being like a lot of really great zombie movies and vampire movies, but also a lot of really terrible ones as well. Because you can just kind of do them, right?
No, and I can agree with that.
Like for me, this is definitely up there, but like the original Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead. Like Night of the Living Dead is like legitimately one of my favorite movies. Like I really enjoy it. And Dawn of the Dead is just a classic in every way, shape, and form. Again, it's not, as we've discussed before, it's not really a zombie movie, but like 28 Days Later, I think is like a damn good movie as well.
Well, that's where it gets really gray because zombies changed again.
Mm-hmm.
Because people decided slow-moving zombies weren't scary enough. We needed to have fast-moving, running all the time.
Well, to be fair, that's another thing that kind of started in Return of the Living Dead, because like they do run in that movie and they mob people pretty quickly. Like there's the whole like the line of cops that just get demolished by the horde of zombies coming out of the graveyard. And again, it's legitimately freaky because there's nothing you can do to stop them. Which again separates it from like your usual zombie horde type of deal.
No, completely. And that's, again, like, I think I appreciate how much this movie revolutionized zombies.
Yeah. Like this movie is easily in my top 5 favorite zombie movies, but like I don't know if I would say it's my favorite. But it is easily one of the best out there.
Because you have no taste.
How dare you? I just said Night of the Living Dead. Like, Night of the Living Dead. Like, it's just...
the remake or the original?
I mean, the original. But the remake is really, really good.
Well, and that's as weird as it's going to sound because the remake came out afterwards. That's kind of like growing up, that was my brain continuity.
Mm-hmm.
Was like the original black and white Night of the Living Dead went into like the George Romero ones, whereas the remake of Night of the Living Dead went into...
The Zack Snyder one?
No, went into Return of the Living Dead.
I could see that. There's a lot of things in the remake of Night of the Living Dead I really like.
Barbara's not just screaming. And...
Like, Barbara is immensely improved as a character in the remake from the original. It's still, like, to me, like, you can't beat a classic, and I'm a sucker for a solid black and white film. And I know the reason it was black and white was 100% budgetary, but it works. Like, I always consider Night of the Living Dead to be this weird, like, kind of transitionary film between, like, kind of like the classic Universal horror and the more, like, 70s, 80s modern horror type of deal.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, like, it's kind of this weird thing where, like, it's black and white, so, like, it has this, like, old movie type feel, but then, like, it's really gory, and it's got that, like, it's a bit grittier in, like, the way characters talk to each other. It's, like... And again, the social commentary, again, George Romero says wasn't intentional, but, like, it's in there in like, just from what's going on with the casting, so...
100%.
So, like, you it's kind of this weird transitionary piece, and then... stuff that came out after that obviously doubles down on that. So, I don't know, I still think Night of the Living Dead is, like, just a damn good movie. Has a Criterion. So
Yeah, it's the Criterion.
actually, that's
Hey, Return of the Living Dead has a shout.
well, that's the annoying thing with that whole series is like, although it's kind of funny too. Like each one of them has like a collector's edition done by a different company.
Well, like, is there a reason why like Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead haven't had like mass? Well, I guess Day of the Dead did, but like why Dawn of the Dead hasn't had like a massive re-release?
Well, it kind of did
No, because it had that collector's edition from overseas from
yeah,
the
Second
UK.
Sight. Yeah,
But they haven't had like a massive like. There's not. It's just not available on mass.
it's literally comes down to a big like rights dispute between Dino De Laurentiis' company and I think Universal. I'm trying to remember the
What about a left's dispute?
how dare you? Like I mean, could be.
You're welcome.
But basically, like it's just like I guess like basically nobody wants to. Neither company wants to pay for like the restoration and like all the other stuff that would go along with it, which is why like DVD wise there was a lot of different releases for Dawn of the Dead, but then like Blu-ray like during that era like nobody wanted to touch it really. And there was an early Blu-ray release, but it went away really quick.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then like Second Sight, they only really do limited editions to begin with, so it's like they were pretty easy. They were easily able to like secure it for something like that. But that's why the 4K for that's super popular, because it's pretty much the only way to get like Dawn of the Dead in like all three cuts of Dawn of the Dead in decent quality. So, but it's like yeah, like Criterion did Night of the Living Dead, Second Sight did Dawn of the Dead, and then Shout did Day of the Dead and Land of the Dead. So they've all got collector's editions, but they do not match at all.
They're all over the place.
100%. Well, it's kind of fun in that regard because, like, to be fair, they are all three of those original movies are they're very different movies, even though they're all made by the same director. But they all are like a decade apart from each other. So, no, it's
Just fun.
yeah, just a really good show. You got a question of the day?
Do you want a party?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's farty time.
Is it party time? Is it? Um.
Is there anything else you would like to add about this? Also, we have a book.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a book.
Complete history.
Yeah, because it goes into some of the sequels as well, right?
Oh, it goes into all the sequels. It goes into everything.
Just a whole.
There's a whole section on just Rave to the Grave.
Oh my god. Yeah, like I think we pretty effectively covered most of it. Like we talked about how quotable it is, the casting, Dan O'Bannon.
Would you ever want to see a remake of Return of the Living Dead?
No. Straight up no. Like I said, I would be interested if somebody wanted to tackle the like basically like do the real events that Night of the Living Dead were based off of, like within this universe. I'd be very interested in seeing a movie based on that, because I think that you could have a lot of fun with that.
But how would you call that? Because you couldn't call it Return of the Living Dead because it would be the first time that they showed up.
It would be like that's the thing, you'd have to be
before the Return of the Living Dead. Add more words to it.
Yeah, like basically because it'd still have to be like Return in the title, like because like Origin of the Living Dead would be like that sounds like it would be a prequel to Night of the Living Dead.
And that's the problem.
Yeah. But like it'd be fun to the night that the living dead returned.
But again, that return means they've already happened.
Yeah, that's the thing. You just call it the living dead. Actually, yeah, there you go. You just call it the living dead.
I feel like that exists.
Well, there's a bunch of different titles like that. Like there's Night of the Seagulls, Night of the Lepus, Night of the Bloody Ape, as we've seen.
I don't know. Do you have a question of the day?
Well, because we asked each other about like our favorite, like whether or not it's our favorite zombie movie. But for me, it's yeah, I don't really have a question of the day. I know. We're so professional.
I'm just disappointed.
Right? Yeah, I'm trying to think here. Trying to think here about, like... I guess, like, in regards to, like, the remake... Like, if they were to remake this film, who would you want to do it?
Me, obviously.
Obviously. Because for me, like, and I'm not being facetious about this at all, but, like, I think if you were to give the remake of this to someone like an Edgar Wright or like an Adam Wingard or someone along those lines, like those would be the only people I'd really be like interested in seeing tackle this concept and doing it correctly.
I think James Gunn could do it.
Actually, yeah, James Gunn would be a really good choice as well. Just like somebody who wouldn't be afraid to like push the concept, because
like the thing with this is there's a balance of self-awareness and not being too self-aware.
Yeah,
like you don't want to have typical meta, like you don't want to have the meta jokes that are in movies today.
Yeah,
but you don't want to have some meta-ness to it where it's like.
Well, I mean, you could literally be like, "Have you ever seen that movie Return of the Living Dead?" Like.
Yeah, but it's like the characters themselves can't know that they're in a movie.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of like, that's the difference.
Yeah, because like, that would be an angle to take it from where it's like, this is the real life event within the remake's reality. And you could do something like that, maybe, but like, that would be that'd be the only way you really could tackle it, I think, and still have it be kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So... I don't know, like, it'd be a really, like, it's such a unique piece of horror media, and it's so fun that, like, I don't think it could be done nowadays it couldn't be done nowadays easily in a interesting way.
Well, I guess that's the next question is, like, would it better to be make a remake or just do a new...
Return of the Living Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, kind of, like, just rebooted from the old one. Then we'll do the, we'll do the Halloween, 2018, and we'll just say all the other sequels didn't happen and only this one did. But somehow Freddy survived, and we'll bring back that actor.
He's still kicking.
Yep, he's still kicking. He was in, somebody did a short film, like a sequel to, like a short film for Friday the 13th, and he came back and played, like, an older Tommy Jarvis, who's still, like, trying to stop Jason.
It's been 30 years, and he just won't die.
Remember me, asshole?
Pepperidge Farms remembers.
Yes. I'd still take that movie now. Like, just, because
Old Man Tommy.
Old Man Tommy, why not? Like, I'd watch that movie. At this point, I don't think anyone's banking on there being a sequel to the remake, so...
I mean, even if they did do a sequel to the remake, you could always bring back Tommy for that.
Yeah. Felt like a missed opportunity not having Jared Padalecki just play Tommy Jarvis. Because he's basically meant to be the brother character from the fourth Friday the 13th. Because he's looking for his sister.
Yeah, but that's a different character than Tommy.
Exactly. Because he's meant to be that one.
This guy.
So if you ever were to do a sequel to that one, like, you'd want to introduce Tommy Jarvis, played by Jensen Ackles. Obviously.
But you can't have Jensen Ackles playing because he plays Axel. I think.
No, he plays Tom Hanniger. He plays the son of the guy who owns the mine in the remake, but they changed his name because, like, in the original it's Jesse Hanniger, and then they changed it to Tom Hanniger for some reason.
To throw you off the scent.
Exactly. Yeah. Spoilers for My Bloody Valentine.
3D.
In 3D. That's what you need. Return of the Living Dead in 3D. But not a new movie, just like someone post-converts this movie into 3D.
I'd watch it. I'd go see it. If they're like, hey guys, come to theaters and watch this in 3D, I'd be like, well...
I do want to party in 3D, so why the hell not?
The zombies are coming right at me. Oh my gosh, these are actual zombies.
Oh my god. All right.
Did we ever settle on a question for the day, or did we just ask each other several questions?
I think we just asked several questions. Like,
Yes.
we've had questions of the day. So, that's about it. I think we're done here.
I think we're done here.
Yeah. Bit of a shorter one, but that's all right. We covered a lot of ground.
We covered Return of the Living Dead, which is a summer movie.
100%. So yeah, I think we both would highly recommend it. It's a very fun watch. Shout Factory is coming out with a 4K here in October, so all you 4K people out there, like, that'd be the one to go with, I think. If not, there's the big collector's edition they did for
They never did big collector's edition.
or am I getting them mixed up with Creepshow?
Creepshow.
Yeah, because Creepshow they've got a big one, but they've still got a really solid release on Blu-ray as well.
I think it's out of print.
Oh no. So yeah, just get the 4K. You won't.
There's also regular Blu-rays as well. Just find it and watch it.
Yeah, 100%. It's well worth it. And I guess we'll come back here in a week or two, and we'll discuss another summer movie.
Well, I think some of the ones we're talking about, Wet Hot American Summer.
Wet Hot American Summer.
Dazed and Confused, is that on the list?
I believe so. Yeah. American Graffiti.
We're not just going to talk about horror movies.
No, naturally, no. Independence Day, I believe, was brought up as well.
So whether we're going to get to all of these or not, we'll see. But we're going to get to a few of them.
If you're feeling up to it, write down in the comments what summer movie you would like to see us cover, and we'll probably ignore it. But we'd love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, give us some of that interaction, guys.
100%. Give us your opinions.
You know, tell us to shut up in the comments. We don't mind.
Yeah, exactly. I want at least 3 shut ups in the comments.
Yes.
Shut up, and then what do you want to see us cover for summer movies, or what your favorite summer movie is? We're not too picky.
Exactly.
Alrighty, Ethan, where can the people find you?
You can find me at Instagram at Ethan R. Hill. You can find me on YouTube under Ethan R. Hill. And you can't find Damned Rights right now.
No, not right now.
Because currently, the site that we had it on Real House is actually moving to Projector.
Yeah.
We don't know 100% sure when that transition is going to finish happening. I want to say late August.
If I recall correctly, yeah.
We will keep people posted on when they can find our movie again.
100%.
But otherwise, you can find it physically at Sunrise Records at Crossfire Mills in Calgary. Mm-hmm. If you want to go buy a DVD.
Yep. If you're willing to make the trip, you could get yourself a copy for $10.
And hopefully, we'll get some more in other locations as well. But
100%.
Yeah. Where can they find you?
You can find me at ThatJProsser on Instagram, and you can find my YouTube under Jesse Prosser. Got some short films there you can check out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Because again, you can't get Damned Rights online right now. So those of you who have copies of Damned Rights,
they're worth something now.
They're worth something. Well, it'll be back up in no time at all.
Oh yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah,
100%.
It's all good.
Alrighty. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
It's awful. You should be fired.
Just a little bit.